The siblings switch. A night out could either turn into one of the best nights of your life or your ultimate regret. This party started off no differently, with my friends and I taking shot after shot and dancing along to the newest hits. I had to blow steam off this week, what with my job as a copywriter pushing me to my limits and my sister providing no comfort whatsoever whenever I was at home. My home used to be my sanctuary. I love my parents to bits, but lately my older sister had been unbearable. I was not sure what was up her sleeves, but I sure wanted no part in her entanglement. She was problematic enough as it is. "Anyone sitting here?" a husky voice interrupted my train of thought. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. Also because as soon as I landed my eyes on this fine specimen of a man, there was no way I could have done anything but gawk at him. He was gorgeous. There was no other way to describe it. Tall, lean, blonde, blue eyes. He looked like he came straight out of a dream. "Use that line on everyone you see?" He smirked and eyed me cautiously before taking a seat. "Not quite," he teased. "Not everyone meets my standards, you see." Cheeky. I took another shot of Bacardi and turned my gaze towards my friends who were all grinding all over each other's sweaty bodies on the dance floor. I loved my friend groups to bits, but since they were all couples, I could not help but feel quite left out at times. So I just decided to stay at the bar and down more shots. Likewise, the gorgeous man was downing his shots even faster than me, it seemed. "Rough day, huh?" I asked, trying to entertain myself. I was subtly hitting on this man, although I knew it was a long shot. There was no way a guy like him could pay attention to someone like me. Besides, he probably had a smoking girlfriend waiting for me. "You could say so," he replied, once again setting his deep blue eyes on me. "You?" "Yep, work's been a pain in the ass," I said. "You here with anyone?" He smirked once again, showing a cute dimple that awakened my loins a bit. "Nah. For tonight, I'll be that cliche guy that got cheated on and is drinking himself shit-faced." My mouth went agape a bit, and I softened, scooting a tad bit closer to the man. "Oh, I'm sorry," I whispered. "It's fine, don't let the party die because of me." We then spoke over a few shots, getting to know each other briefly and touching on our interests. I shared about how rough my past few weeks had been in the publishing house I worked at, given the recent change in our management. He was in awe that I was a writer and demanded that I show him some of my work. We were not tipsy. On the other hand, he was a chef at a fine dining restaurant called the Hamilton, downtown, and I promised him that I would give him a visit sometime if he made me his signature dish, which he claimed to be chili bacon polenta. We shared our love for books, and while we droned on about the latest crime novel he was reading, I quickly felt at ease with this man. Never have I felt comfortable sharing so much with a stranger I met so soon. Much less in a club, where pretty much everything was chaotic and obnoxiously loud. In this tiny corner of the bar, though, I found my peace. It seemed as though he shared my sentiments because he was swiftly opening up about his recent breakup. Perhaps because he felt at ease with me, or the drinks were getting to both of us, because we were also getting more and more adjacent, and the atmosphere was heating up. Amidst my tipsiness, I knew that I was pretty much one scoot away from sitting on his lap. We were that close. I didn't see that coming, he shared, snapping me out of my riviere. "Her cheating?" I asked. He nodded, taking yet another shot. I could tell that off the bat that this man had a high alcohol tolerance, because if I drank half as much as he did during that short period of time, I would have been fast asleep by now. "We were happy, you know," he replied. Or so I fooled myself into thinking. "How were you guys like?" I questioned curiously, trying to keep my anger towards his mystery girl at bay. She was always more aloof and cold. I was always friendly and romantic one, but somehow we made it work. "But really, one of my coworkers? It's kind of fucked up, right?" "It really is," I said softly, swallowing a lump on my throat. This man deserved much better. For the past hour or so that we have been conversing, I could already infer that he was sincere, and he had so much substance. Whoever this girl was, she sure was dumb, for not only letting him go, but more so for hurting him. "You deserve better. You seem like the type of guy to go to great lengths for a girl. Set up a romantic dinner, cook her comfort food, all that. You deserve someone who can reciprocate rather than hurt you like this." He stopped drinking at once, set his shot glass down and met my eyes. I swear I could melt under his intense gaze. His eyes were visibly blue, even with the bright dance floor lights and vivid spotlights interfering. My world seemed to come to a halt when his gaze landed on my full lips, and he kissed me square on the lips. I found myself returning the kiss, and before I knew it, We were on a couch at another corner of the club, full on making out. Want to get out of here? Hookups were definitely not my thing. Of all my friends, I had always been dubbed as the most behaved one. The one who did not drink with his dick, and the one who valued emotional attachments more than anything. So it was not surprising that until the next week I had been thinking that one night stand I had, it was the best lay I've ever had, if I do say so myself. Plus, the man had a magnetic personality, and he gained my trust in just one conversation. I thought I made the right decision leaving his bed that morning, though. I did not want to be another stressor for him, and adding another person, aka me, to the equation would just complicate his already messy ordeal. Something bothering you, sweetie? My mom asked as she laid a tray of baked feta pasta on our table. We were having a family dinner for the first time in months, and my sister also announced the day before that she was bringing someone special with her. I shook my head and continued setting the table. Soon after, my sister arrived. I could tell because no one's voice could be as high-pitched. Plus, she was already bickering with her companion. Just stop, you already ruined it, she berated. I'm sorry, I was just hoping to bring something good for your family. I heard that familiar voice just as my sister appeared from the corner, rolling her eyes, exaggerately. I could not be mistaken. I had just heard that exact genuine and gentle tone days ago at the bar. This could not be happening. The man from the bar that I had a night stand with was here, in my family's home, with my sister. Mom, Dad, and you, said the bitch, eyeing me with the condescension she had always had for me. My boyfriend, James. He spotted me and stopped dead in his tracks, but recovered quickly and greeted my parents. When he approached me, I could not look him in the eye, and instead focused my gaze on the painting behind him as we shook hands. This was not good at all. How was I having the best conversation with a man at a bar and subsequently sleeping with him just over a week ago, and now my sister was introducing him as her boyfriend? Was all that I got cheated on drama even real? Was he the one who cheated on my sister with me? These questions were lurking through my mind throughout dinner, and I was semi-tuned out as James and my parents conversed. As usual, my sister Nadine was much too invested in herself. She had always been knee-deep in narcissism and was the queen of making everything about her. So it was no surprise that she was treating James like he wasn't even there. Luckily, my parents seemed genuine in wanting to get to know him, so they engaged him in meaningful conversation, which had Nadine turning to her phone for entertainment throughout the dinner instead. My mother smiled brightly. You seem like such a well-read man, James. I'm happy Nadine finally found someone who can match her intellect, she commented. I stifled a laugh. I had been quiet all throughout dinner, given my occasional nods and but not really being my bright and cheerful self. It was awkward knowing that just days ago, I was in this man's arms, and now he was in front of me again, introduced as my sister's boyfriend. My mom then looked back and forth towards me and James, and for a split second my heart stopped. My mom had always been the observant one, and I was terrified at the idea of her catching on to what was happening between me and James. My dad also gave me a knowing look, but thankfully did not say anything. I could not handle it anymore, with my parents praising him and cooing over James and my sister's relationship. I excused myself and headed to the patio, momentarily claiming that I had to take a work call. I breathed in and out repeatedly, staring at the starry sky and wondering how it would have felt if I was the one who had brought him home. How wonderful must that feel? It would certainly be better than being gnawed at by your guilt at the thought of being a third party to your very own sister's seemingly perfect relationship. Seth. I heard that voice. His voice was husky, but it was by no means rough. He sounded manly, without being intimidating. There was a tenderness to his demeanor, despite his hard exterior. I guess I was the fool, huh? Tell me, were you really cheated on that night? Was that just a cry for attention? I confronted him. He approached me and my heart softened when his eyes flashed hurt and confusion. What? Did you really get cheated on, or did I become the third party between you and my sister? He shook his head rapidly and attempted to reach for me, but I moved away before he could. Seth, it was nothing like that. I'm hurt at the idea of you thinking that I used you and that I could ever cheat on anyone. Your sister and I have broken up for days when I met you at the bar. Everything I told you, I was nothing but truthful. Hell, I have never been more real to anyone than I was with you that night. I let out an audible sigh and felt a pang of relief. Sorry for even thinking that you're capable of cheating. You're much too good for that. He grinned. That was his first smile of the night, and that was the cause of his joy. It's all good, he replied. I'm sorry to put you in this awkward position, though. I never would have known you two are siblings. I understand. It was a one-night thing. You don't need to worry about it, I reassured him. Although deep down, of course, I was wishing it was not a one-night stand. How I wish I was the one who got to introduce him to my family as my significant other. It's true then. My sister was the one who cheated on you? He met my eye, but quickly looked away, as if ashamed. He nodded and swallowed a lump on his throat. Your sister's a tough one to deal with. Why did you stay with her then? Why did you go back? Familiarity, I suppose. She begged me to get back together with her, and seeing her cry like that, it made me want to give her a second chance. I see how she treats you. Those subtle comments that she makes to belittle you, the way she ignores your presence as if you're not even in the room. She doesn't even deserve that second chance. He pursed his lips, and I knew that I hit the bullseye. I kept thinking that maybe if I gave her one more chance, things would change. Maybe, I said truthfully, but I know my sister. She doesn't love anybody but herself. I'm starting to see it now. Why don't you leave then? I don't know, Seth. I don't know. You deserve so much better. One night I have known you, and I already know how much of a good man you are, how pure of a heart you have. Don't settle for anything less just because of familiarity or her manipulation. I'm trying, he whispered. Every time she says something and gaslights me, I want to stand up for myself so bad, but I cannot seem to do it. Whenever I think to how she cheated on me, my self-worth crumbles. It's the self-worth I have tried to build up for so many years, and all because of her, it's like I'm back to square one. What you're feeling is very much valid, I advised. But I don't think you deserve to get the blame for this. You don't deserve to feel like shit about yourself just because she's a narcissist and a terrible person. Do what's best for you, even if it's difficult. I wish it was that easy. You're stronger than you think you are, James, I convinced him. His eyes perked up as though I was the beam of hope he was looking for. You really think so? I nodded. I said as I put my hand over his and pat it repeatedly. The next week I was just leaving for work when I spotted a familiar silhouette outside my building. Seated on one of the benches was James, clad in a tight white shirt and a leather jacket. He was holding up a bag from Loretta, my favorite bakery. Hey, he greeted, standing up and walking towards me. Hey, what are you doing here? I asked as I gave him a tight hug. I was waiting for you. Brought you some of that cinnamon roll you were talking about over dinner the other day, he mentioned. After the rather awkward first meeting with my parents, James went back to our house thrice already to have dinner. And those 3 other times it was magnificent. My mom cooked her immaculate dishes, my dad brought in drinks, and the 4 of us shared excellent dinners without my sister. How thoughtful, I gushed. Thank you so much. He nodded and said, let me walk you home. We then took a stroll, refreshing the cool breeze off that late afternoon and enjoying each other's company in general. We small-talked about our day, and he told me about finally getting a Bichon Frise earlier that day. I was pumped for him, seeing as he had been holding back from getting one since my sister hated dogs. How come she finally relented? I asked, referring to Nadine, who surely would have raged upon the sight of a small dog turd. I ended things. I stopped dead in my tracks, and it seemed like my heart was racing at lightning speed. Deep down, I was ecstatic for James. He deserved better, and despite the entanglement that we were caught in, what with him being with my sister and me having slept with him, he was my friend. I found comfort in him, as he did with me. I had to pretend I was not over the moon, though. After all, despite my sister's atrocious attitude, it seemed like James loved her at one point. If he were melancholic about this, I would be there for him. I would share his sorrows. I'm so sorry to hear that, James, I offered, my words of comfort. Don't be, he said, smiling weakly. I followed your advice, and your words truly strengthened me. They empowered me to stand up for myself, and to not take any of her shit anymore. I'm glad to hear that. You happy then? I said. He nodded profusely. I am. I feel like I've broken free from the shackles, you know? Like I could be whoever I want to be. I could eat whatever I want without being told it would destroy my physique. I could gush over books and comics and my passions without being dubbed as immature or nerdy. I felt a tinge in my heart knowing how horribly my sister had treated this kind man. I'm happy for you and I hope you find happiness. Yeah, I hope so too, he said softly, looking at me very intently, and his blue eyes seemingly piercing right through me. I want to ask you something. 1,000 thoughts were racing through my mind. Could this possibly be it? Go out with me, he whispered gently. It doesn't have to be now. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. I'm willing to wait. You have shown me kindness, love, and made me feel emotions that I did not even know I was capable of feeling. Before you, I have never even questioned my sexuality, let alone considered the idea of sleeping with another guy. But then you came into my life, and I thought, the void that I have been trying to fill for years, but cannot quite get just right yet. You filled it so easily. I've been looking for you, and now that I found you, I don't want to let you go, Seth. James, I started, pulling him close and giving him a tight hug. I don't know what to say except I want to be with you too. He pulled away and then touched the tip of his nose with mine, once again gazing intensely at me. His eyes made me weak, but once he smiled and his deep dimples appeared, I was a goner. It's going to be messy. Your sister's probably going to throw a fit, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be with you, he said. Not long later, my parents soon found out about my sister cheating on James. Nadine admitted it herself in an accidental outburst. I cheated on that poor excuse of a man, she shouted at the dinner table. It was only the four of us that night, and my parents were prying about her and James's breakup. They were raving about how James was such a kind man and how they missed his jolliness around the house. And I suppose Nadine could no longer take it. She despised the idea of her own family favoring her ex-boyfriend over her, I suppose. To say that my parents were disappointed was an understatement. They berated Nadine thoroughly, and of course she could only sit there with her shins up. Even while being scolded like she deserved, she still had a massive ego and pretended to be unbothered. You could live 1,000 lives and not deserve that man, my mother told her pointedly. He truly deserves better, said my dad, and I'm glad that he's found his happiness in your brother. What? Said Nadine and I concurrently. I was beyond shocked, of course, that my father knew, and Nadine was seething, of course. My pathetic poor excuse of a brother, spat Nadine, glaring at me from across the table. Never getting shit for yourself, are you? That's why you were settling for my leftovers? Don't speak about James like that. He's great and a kind man, I retaliated. Don't waste your energy on her, Seth, said my mother, extending her hand and enveloping my shaking hands with her comforting ones. My dad had enough of Nadine's mouth and spoke for all of us. Your brother is treating James better than you ever have, and you will never will. Get out. You know, Dad? I asked, still in confusion, after Nadine walked out of the house and slammed the door shut. Of course I do, sweetie. I was just waiting for you to be ready to tell me and your mom yourself. But James has also already asked for our permission, which is why we hold him in such high regard. That man truly loves you and is willing to fight for you. We're happy for you, sweetie, my mom added. I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. My parents accepted me and James. They supported us, and I could not be any more elated. The best revenge now, I suppose, would be to go on a family vacation, my dad cheered. Me, Mom, and James. No Nadine in sight. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.